When we look back at what happened in Syria in 2018, militarily speaking, it's a huge gain for Syrian government and its allies, Russia and Iran. However, when you look deep into the political war, the situation has grown more complicated than ever. On the ground, starting from the beginning of this year, Syrian army kicked off its long-awaited offensive in East Ghouta, a rebel stronghold only a few kilometers away from the Syrian capital, Damascus. During the offensive, though humanitarian aid had been delivered, but over 100,000 civilians temporarily left their homes. East Ghouta became a focus of the international community in April, not only because of the humanitarian situation, but the airstrikes by US, Britain, and France. Though claimed this was a retaliation for Syrian government using chemical weapons that allegedly caused huge civilian deaths a week before, so far there is still no concrete proof for this allegation. After East Ghouta, one by one, Syrian army regained control of southern Damascus, where terrorists like Al-Nusra Front and ISIL used to stay. Then the whole southern region of Syria, from the province of Sueda to Daraa until Golan Heights. By reconciliation, Syrian army also took control of northern Homs, which means there is only one rebel stronghold, Idlib. When the world believed a major offensive would start in Idlib, Russia and Turkey, the two guarantor countries on both sides, decided to give a pause in September. So for the past few months, for most parts in Syria, people did enjoy a relatively peaceful and quiet life. Not only roads have been revamped in many places, not only less security checks in the streets, but people, refugees, their return is accelerating. According to UNHCR, by the end of October this year, around 34,000 refugees returned to their home country, Syria. Though the number is small comparing to 5 million refugees abroad, but still the highest in years. As for ISIL, yes, they are still here in Syria. US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces took long enough to finally take control of ISIL's stronghold Ajin, a small town in Euphrates Valley in Deir Zur, eastern Syria. But here is what people believed about ISIL. This terrorist group is empowered by the extremist ideology. Where there's chaos, there's ISIL. As long as Syrian, Iraqi, and Jordanian borders are in chaos or disputes, ISIL will still exist there. Will Syrian crisis get any better? Bear this in mind, Syrian crisis is never only about Syria. It's about US, Russia, Iran, Turkey, Israel, European countries, as well as Gulf countries. And this is why in the beginning I said the political side is more complicated than ever. When the battle on ground fades away, the battle on the negotiation table will come, and we all hope there will be more common ground than selfish calculations. And that is the situation in Syria.
So a lot of people wonder how government shutdowns can even happen in the first place. Well, CGT and Timothy Ulrich has more on the intricate process behind this mechanism.
While many other countries around the world share characteristics with the U.S. in terms of government structure, one not shared is federal employees going without pay because of a disagreement on the budget.
A motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
With no separation between the executive and legislative branches, this is virtually impossible in parliamentary systems. Even in presidential systems that are like the U.S., federal employees don't feel the impact of a government shutdown. In Brazil, for example, the executive branch would still have the power to allocate salaries if a budget is not passed. For the U.S., federal funding begins with the president, who sends a request to the Appropriations Committee in the House of Representatives. There, they create a spending bill that is sent to the House to be voted on. If passed, it's sent to the Senate. If not, it's sent back to the committee for further refinements. Once in the Senate, it can be passed and sent to the President, or sent back to the House. The President can either veto it, where it returns to Congress, who can override it with a 2/3 majority, or pass it, completing the process. A shutdown happens when a spending bill is not completely passed before a new round of funding begins. The federal government can only be funded through legislation, and legislation must begin in the House Appropriations Committee. Initially, the budget process was made to encourage debate and act as a check on power, but as it evolved, it was necessary to modify the law to prevent abuses of power. Before 1974, there was no formal process, so no shutdowns. And as it continues to be amended, it will most likely remain uniquely American. Timothy Ulrich, CGTN.
This image was sent by the probe Chang'e 4.
The Chang'e probe.
The probe called Chang'e 4.
China's Chang'e 4 probe has entered its planned orbit.
Chang'e.
It's Chang'e 4. Chang'e.